So welcome to the usual Born to Lead broadcast with me, Shedrack Baku. And today I'm going to be considering that very important topic, which is adding value to the lives of people. Now you will recognize that leadership is about people, but not necessarily over people. I've said this several times and times without number, that leadership is about people, but not necessarily over people. And if leadership is about people and not necessarily over people, then it tells that as a leader you must learn to add value to the lives of every person that you meet. You must learn to add value to everyone who looks up to you, to everyone who draws close to you, because leadership is about them and not necessarily over them. Now, to be able to add value to the life of people as you exhibit your leadership qualities, your leadership lifestyle, there are 5 principles by which I'm going to challenge you to learn to put to practice on a daily basis and see how that increases value over the life of people. The first principle is that because leadership is about people and not over people, you have got to connect with people. You have got to relate with everyone that you come across with, because you see, as much as you want to increase your influence in your environment, in your society and around people, you cannot do it in isolation. You have got to do it by connecting with people. When I was going to the university, my dad gave me one advice of so many other advices that he gave, which was that I should learn to greet everybody that I met. And you know what? I held on to that advice. I greeted everybody, whether you were low, high, older or younger. And guess what? That single action got me a lot of friends. Why? Because I simply connected with people just by greeting people. And if you greet people, they believe you have added value to their lives. They will respond to the level of influence that you have over them. So the first principle is that you must learn to connect with people. The second principle is that in connecting with people, you must realize and recognize that they were created in the image and likeness of God Almighty. When God imagined to create humans, you and I, the prototype that he had in mind was built around him, which was that he wanted an exact spiritual replica of himself. So he said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And that's how every human was created. Whether you are rich, you are poor, you are handsome, beautiful, tall, short, you are large, you speak Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, you speak English, Russian, whatever language you speak, and wherever you find yourself, you are first and foremost human. As it is for all humans to be born, then live, and then die. That's how all across the globe life runs. So whether you are rich or poor, you were born one day, you will die one day. Now, that tells us that the basic ingredients of who we are the same. So for you to add value to the lives of people, you have got to understand and see people in the image and likeness of God. That's another principle. The other principle, number 3, is that for you to add value to the lives of people, you must think of their interest as being higher and greater than your interest. People who consider their interests above the interests of others are called selfish. And even the selfish person does not like to be recognized as being selfish. Therefore, for you not to be considered as being selfish, you must think of other people's interest as greater and higher than your own interest. This is not to say you should neglect your interest. No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that in the face of your interest against another person's interest, you must consider the other person's interest as greater and higher than your interest. Now, this is the trick. If I consider my interest as greater and higher than your own interest, and you consider my interest as greater and higher than your own interest, what happens is that we watch each other's back. We protect each other. We safeguard each other. We secure each other. So, we must learn to take other people's interests as higher and greater than our own interest. When standing on a queue, and you see, for example, a pregnant woman on the queue, it would only be wise and sensible for you to make room for the pregnant woman to come to the front of the queue. I remember many years when I traveled to the Netherlands, and I was sitting in a train with a friend of mine, and then some elderly persons, very aged persons, came into the train. And my friend and I got up and asked them to please sit. They were shocked. They were amazed. And one of them spoke to us, one of them who could speak English, said, "Wow, this is amazing. And why did you stand up?" So we explained to them, we are from Africa, and in Africa, we show respect to the elderly by rising up and creating space for them to sit. And they were quite appreciative of that. Why? Because we consider their interest as greater and higher than our own interest. It could be as simple as that. The next principle for you to consider in adding value to other people's life is that you must love them unconditionally. You must love them the way that you love yourself. A lawyer approached Jesus one time and asked him which was the greatest commandment of all the commandments that was given by Moses. And Jesus, in responding, simply said, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your mind, and your soul." And Jesus went further to add that the second command is like unto it, which is what? That you love your neighbor as you love yourself. So for you to add value to the life of people, you must first of all love yourself and then translate that love to the life of other people. Every one of us loves to be loved. Every one of us likes to have somebody think of us and pay attention to the things that hurt us or to the things that make us joyful. So that principle states that you must love people just the way that you love yourself. And if you do that, you are adding value to the life of those people. And the final principle is that you must learn to feed people. Yes, when I talk about feeding, I hear you already thinking that I mean supply food. Well, if you can supply food, that will be exceptionally great and wonderful. But if you cannot supply food, there are so many ways in which you can feed people. There are people who are hurting mentally. There are people who are hurting emotionally. Others are hurting physically. You must learn to meet people's needs depending on what kind of needs that they have and the capacity that you have to provide those needs. So learn to feed people. Learn to feed them mentally by educating them, by coaching them, by training them. Whatever information that you have, learn to share with others. I am sharing this information because I have it. And if I keep it to myself, it will be useless and inconsequential in my life. So I've got to spread it out for others to also learn. So pass it on to others. There are those who are lacking spiritually. Make yourself available. Help them spiritually to grow. There are those who have been hurt by parents, by loved ones, and they are hurting emotionally. Feed them. Make yourself available for them to get succor and comfort. These principles, if you apply them to your life and to your everyday leadership, you will add value to the lives of people. And if you apply them, then you are applying wisdom. Because all that I have said this hour is amounting to what I will consider wisdom. So go out there and practice adding value to the lives of people, because this is wisdom.